Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Together We Learn. Today we're going to answer a bunch of interesting questions. So, how did IKEA come into existence, right? And how is it so popular today? It's so popular that when I went to Bombay, when I learned that IKEA is there, it put a smile on my face. So, how did those founders crack that game of immersive experience that they're giving through IKEA? So these are the conversations that we're going to talk about today, how they started, where they're going ahead, and also to understand the core psychological pointers that the team at IKEA or the whole concept of immersive experience is trying to target and make us be involved with, right? This is what we're going to talk about in Together We Learn. So to get started, Together We Learn is a community of learners who want to know more about economics in the world of finance, right? And there's nothing wrong in knowing about world of finance in the terms of what is the P&E ratio, which is a video that we have. At the same time, it could be as interesting as Ikea Effect, which can also provoke a thought in our minds, which will tell us, can we create an immersive experience and start a business on our own? Right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we want you to think about that as a pointer or take that as a takeaway, right? So now to get started, before we go ahead into IKEA Effect or the economics of IKEA and its effect, I want to tell you about what Vite is. Vite is a financial wellness platform, and our sole motive is to help individuals take informed decisions. So most of us end up taking decisions because someone tells us to, or because someone is showing us this is the best version that helped them. But no one really thinks about it in a perspective of, is it a good product for me? Is it a good product for me and my future financial journey? So that's where our algorithm does an amazing job of understanding you and then starts giving you recommendations so that you can start growing your wealth. At the same time, you can monitor and make sure that if something is happening, you don't have to be always involved because your life is somewhere else and it's not probably always looking at the screen and monitoring the funds or the suggestions or the conditions that these medical insurance companies might give out every once in a while. So Vite will make sure that it monitors the entire financial market based on the products that you have and gives you prompts as and when it's required so that you are kept well informed. All right, do try out. We are available on both iOS and Android for you to try out, and do give us feedback and your suggestions so that we can make the product and build it together. Right now, coming back into IKEA Effect, right? So what is IKEA? IKEA is nothing but an amazing store which has over 460 stores globally. But the interesting fact here is there's only one store which is owned by IKEA, right? And the remaining are all, if you want to guess, they're just franchisees, right? So IKEA being a immersive furniture experience or a home depot, you can call it as a home depot. So where you can find everything that you need for your house, from furnitures to TV stands to as simple as when I was in Bombay, I was looking for like mirrors that I can keep in the restroom here, right? So it's as simple as products that are worth 250 rupees is also something that you can find, and you can find products that are even more expensive, right? So IKEA was founded in Sweden in 1943, right? And that's a really long time back. It's way before our independence, right? And what you need to understand is the way they use psychological thought process of us as individuals and how they built an entire model out of it. And that's the beauty of IKEA, right? It's a multinational group of companies. It's a multinational corporation which basically designs and sells ready-made, like ready to assemble, not even ready-made products, it's ready to assemble. Like we've all heard of fully functional or ready-made products, but this is just ready to assemble, right? Furnitures, home appliances, and home accessories, right? This is what is there inside the IKEA stores. Even though they look like a huge barn and they take up a lot of space, that's why most of the IKEA stores that you've heard of, they are kept in the outskirts, right? Because people want the entire journey to be an experience, and I'll tell you why, right? And they have a wide range of functional, well-designed products which are super economical, right? And this is how they want more and more people to be involved in buying as much as it can, That's mainly because they want to provide them that as an option. So how does IKEA really make its money, right? Um, so today, IKEA, like I said, only one store is owned by them. The remaining all are franchisees. So they do make money from the person who's taking the franchisee. So around 3% of the net sales that they do goes into IKEA's pockets, right? And apart from this, they also make money from the products that are IKEA products, right? That they're selling it to these franchisees as wholesale products. Maybe people might be buying a lot of desks, which are all made by IKEA themselves, right? So those products are something that they will get a commission out of. Basically, they're making a sale there. Now, apart from this, this is where I want to talk to you about the unit economics, right? These are these huge barn-like structures, like in India, we call it as warehouses, right? They look like warehouses. And they're kept so far away, which means the rental amount that you need to pay for these stores, if you keep it inside the city, will be huge, but for a smaller location. Whereas they are keeping it in a slightly away, like it'll be like a 40 minutes drive. And what they're saying is when people, let's just say, if you're going to IKEA, if you go as a family, you will all have an amazing experience and you can make a day out of it, right? And there was times where IKEA also will give you discounts if you show them that you've traveled this far, right? This is a way in which IKEA kind of made people like build a product which became like a household name, right? And today, us being in a city where IKEA is not there, we would be super excited if IKEA says they're going to come here, right? So that is the kind of emotion that they leave, right? So all these stores which are there, they all contribute to IKEA's revenue. Now, apart from this, they also have direct to consumer, like an online setup, which is nothing but an e-commerce, right? When I was looking for those mirrors, I was looking at on IKEA store, right? I didn't think about looking at it on Amazon because one of my friends told me IKEA has everything that you need, right? And the moment I heard that, I went into it and I started looking for them, right? So this is nothing but e-commerce store. You would see the margins and you can directly buy it from them. And this is basically from their marketing expense. They would run ads, etc., so that more traffic comes into IKEA's website and then you can buy products from there. All right. Now, what is IKEA's value proposition, right? First and foremost, it has to be affordability, right? They want to make sure that products which are home related can't be these great looking products can't be just something that the high end of the society can buy. It is something that even the middle class segment and everyone should be able to afford it, right? So that is how they started off their platform and their product. And I'll tell you more about how they were able to achieve it. One of the major reasons was definitely the supply chain, right? Especially this distance of them keeping the store far away, which means the rent component is less. And it is huge that they have other ways in which they can make sure that they keep more and more products where more and more people end up seeing, right? So that is one of their major value proposition, affordability. Then came the design, right? IKEA, coming from Sweden, they wanted to make sure that they brought that whole Scandinavian design like taste into all their products, right? So that is when, and when I say Scandinavian design, they try to concentrate on only three important things. One is simplicity, one is minimalism, and then functionality, right? With these three things, they were saying that these are the value propositions that someone should look at when they're looking at a product, and which is absolutely true. Things should be simple to use or simple to build in their case, and it should be minimalistic, which is you shouldn't have too many flares and things because you don't need, not everyone needs that, right? And then finally, functionality. It should serve the purpose. If it's a bed, you should be able to sleep on it, but it should be comfortable, right? So that's how they ended up targeting, and how they were doing it is through let's make it on our own kind of a model, right? So all their furnitures are flat pack. What we mean by that is when you typically go to a quintessential furniture store, which could be there in any of your areas that you're living in, you will start noticing that most of these stores have to keep these ready-made furnitures, which means it would be upright, it would take up a huge amount of space, right? Whereas with IKEA, they started putting these furnitures in flat pack, stamped in a instruction card telling people that these are the blocks and building blocks, basically like a Lego, right? Like we all love building Lego toys and we like building them, and that's the reason why Lego is one of the most successful companies. Similarly, IKEA is just a life-sized version of a Lego, right? Where you can take these flat packed furnitures, like basically there will be a plank, there would be screws, there would be bolts, and they'll give you step-by-step instruction as to how to build it, right? And further, this kind of reduces space because there was no more space. It's easy to transport. All of this kind of came into existence here, right? Now, apart from this, they also made sure that the people who are walking inside a store, they get the most of it. So generally, when you look at grocery stores, right, there is a reason why grocery stores have some products kept in the beginning and some products kept pushed inside, right? Basically, it's called as a product placement, right? So these product placements make a huge difference because people will end up seeing that first. What IKEA was able to achieve is that they made sure that the store layout is in such a way that customers had the maximum visibility of the store. Like in a grocery store, if you probably take the third aisle, you might not see the first and second aisle, right? Unless you walk around it. But in IKEA, that's not how it is. It's a beautiful maze of creative design where you end up experiencing every single product in the aisles, right? And what happens is when you see something very cute and nice, you end up adding it into your cart, right? So that is what they capitalize very beautifully, and that they're known for that. They're known for that, their store layouts. Right? Now, finally, what they wanted to also give out as a value proposition is sustainability, right? At the moment, they are not super climate friendly because obviously furniture is cutting of trees, all of that. But they are looking at investing a lot of money to move into that by 2030. They want to be more climate positive by then, right? And which is a great deal because 2030 is what, 7 years away, which is not that far away. And that is where they want to get to. And this is IKEA all over the world. Right? And a fun fact here, IKEA last year, their senior executives in India and their CEO, and it's a woman. So she came down here and she said she is super impressed by the growth of India. And she also specifically mentioned that the middle class society in India is starting to develop so much that she feels IKEA will have more and more stores coming across in the next 5 to 6 years, right? And this is amazing because she's also said, I don't remember the exact numbers, but she also said that there's going to be a huge amount of investment in there'll be a lot of investment that'll be infused into the Indian economy so that IKEA stores can be opened, right? In most of the cities where they think it would make a lot of value for customers. So this is something that IKEA's value proposition is. Now let's get into IKEA Effect, which I think everyone wants to know about. So IKEA Effect basically describes a trend wherein individuals like me and you would find an object more valuable when we make it on our own or when we assemble it, right? It's very simple. Like when I bake cookies, I know it wasn't great, but I still ate them, right? So it's a very, very small, not so relatable example, but that's how they are saying it. So they're saying that if you can make these items on your own, then you will end up feeling more connected to it because you went through an experience, right? You went through an experience where you were being a Bob the Builder, right? And we've all watched Bob the Builder where we were excited with the way in which he was building things, right? And the concept is very simple. Labor leads to love, right? And you're doing this within your house. So you're not going to sit out in the sun and do it. You can just do it within your confined four walls, right? So that's where IKEA Effect kind of comes into picture. Now, having said this, it has a lot to do with this IKEA Effect, even though people started noticing more of this with IKEA, mainly because its furniture is big and them giving you boxes of planks and screws kind of got people's attention. But this has been being done even way back where if you go to our grocery stores, there's a product called Betty Crocker's cake mix, right? So what happened is they have something called as the egg theory, right? So Betty Crocker used to use dried up eggs as part of their powder. So it used to be infused in the powder so that all that people had to do was, or any other cake brand or cake mix brand back then had to do was take the powder, which is powder, and then pour water and then mix it and then you're done, right? But what they decided was they actually took out the egg component and told people, gave instruction on back of their boxes saying, hey, this is the powder, like we have the egg mix powder, but you need to also get involved because we're going to make this together, right? Where you will add the eggs, the milk, you will like make the batter out of this combination, right? And post this, it was a huge amount of spike in the sales. And if you notice this particular video, you'll see how they are publicizing this. I'm going to stay quiet so you can see this video.
Egg cake or a cake made with dried eggs. For higher, lighter, tastier cake, why, fresh eggs, of course. But remember, all cake mixes are not alike. Betty Crocker cake mixes are different. They call for your eggs, added by you at home. It's the only national cake mix brand that lets you add the eggs. There's a reason why there are no dried egg whites, no dried egg yolks in Betty Crocker cake mixes. When you add the eggs, you're sure to get finer cakes most consistently. 9 out of 10 homemakers in recent tests said Betty Crocker cake mixes gave them bigger, taller.
We will add the link to this video in the description below. But what you need to look at this is they sold the product saying that all the other products have these infused eggs in them. Why do you have to go for that? Instead, let's make cake from fresh eggs. Because you're using fresh eggs, the cakes are more fluffier, bigger, they're more better looking. And this is how they started selling, and no one at that time actually did this. So this is basically like a do-it-yourself cake kind of a model that they bought in, right? So that's very interesting for all of us to end up noticing that it was not just them. Then like I said, even though Betty Crocker did it back then and IKEA kind of made it more popular, the whole DIY kind of an approach, you need to understand that people started doing research papers. They started writing research papers on IKEA. Right? There's an actually interesting research paper which was done by Michael, Daniel, and Dan, where it was called basically IKEA Effect When Labor Leads to Love. In this entire paper, they talk about, I'll also add the link to this in the description so you can know more about it. It talks about how people were thinking differently when they started associating to products which they built, right? So for instance, this is one of the data that they collected. So they basically had people build products, right? And they had people who were building products, and some of them, they stopped it. It was like incomplete, whereas the others, they actually completed building, right? And when they realized that, when they asked the people around to associate a value for it, for the ones which were built by themselves, they associated a higher value compared to the other products which were earlier built by them or incompletely built by them, but then later someone else came and finished building, right? So when someone else came in and finished building, they associated the money value for that product to be lesser, right? And this is nothing but the concept of sweat equity, right? Like in the world of business, you say your hard work. When you have a piece of something, or when you put a piece of your hard work into it, then you associate it very closely to like basically you created it, like you become a creator, right? And like we all love to play God at some point. So that's basically how this happened. Now, the other interesting thing in the paper is about an origami exercise where people made origami toys. Like origami, like paper toys. And then what they did was they told the makers to associate a value for it. And they also told the onlookers to look at it and associate a value for it. So the makers always associated a higher value, saying that, hey, I'm ready to pay this much because I made it on my own. Right? Compared to the person who's looking at it, who's about to buy it, they said, oh no, this is easy. Because they don't know how much effort has gone into it. Right? So that is where this whole IKEA effect kind of plays a major role in people's mind. Right? And the reason why I use the word mind here is because whenever we talk about mind, there's biases. Right? In the world of finance or economics, there is bias. In the world of these products also, there are biases. Right? So these biases have both like individual effects as well as like a systemic effect, right? So individual effect is nothing but we are ready to pay extra for the experience of building. And I'm not kidding. I have a friend who lives in Canada who I've constantly seen her post videos of buying products and making from IKEA, buying these products and making at home. And I would at least seen her do it 4 times, right? And this becomes like her Sunday activity. Instead of going out and spending time and eating dinner or whatever, she wants to do this at home because it's fun to build it. And it'll take a solid 4-5 hours of her time to do it, right? So they're okay to pay that extra premium amount on top of, like, if ready-made products might be cheaper, but they are okay to do this for the experience, right? At the same time, for companies, the effect for them is that they increase their profits mainly because they don't have to assemble these products and add that cost. The labor cost need not be added on it, right? And also further, they don't have to look at transporting these big items which are ready-made, which means you need to make sure that they're proper. They are not like you have to have a certain set of transportation criteria or methods to get it to people's places, right? So this is where the systemic effect kind of came into existence, right? So now, just to give you more examples, like off late, people have already started doing it and they've already started converting these into businesses, these immersive experiences. And the one simple experience is there are these meal kits available today where you can buy these weekly boxes of, let's just say, they would give you, I remember one of my friends was talking about sushi boxes, but they'll give you all the items for the sushi, but you can make it on your own, right? So instead of rather going to a sushi restaurant and having Japanese restaurant and having sushi, instead you're at home making it and creating it as an experience, right? Similarly, I've also seen people do, like, make their own cocktails, right? Where cocktail mixes and everything is available. You just have to follow the instruction and make them, right? Now, this is not just in these food items side. It's also gone into things like toys, right? There's a company called Build-A-Bear, which actually offers customers an option to build their own teddy bear. Basically stuff it, and then at their store you can basically you can have the entire experience of building it, right? And you see the videos of how they do it, and it's very, very beautiful. So this kind of makes sure that people are ready to put a lot more money. And with Build-A-Bear, it's like a very premium product. That is, only people who are ready to have this experience can even afford it, right? And people are doing it and they're massive in the market, right? Back in the US. So this is something that you need to realize, that when this IKEA effect is caught on so much that people are ready to ignore that extra cost. And what we want you to realize is, yes, go have the experiences, but you should also remember it shouldn't be because of the biases that you have. You should be informed. Like I said earlier, our job or my job or anyone in my team, our job is to make sure that you have the information so that you challenge your thinking and then see if it's good for you or not, or whether you want it, right? So just to understand why does this happen is mainly because of the psychological need to feel like we are competent or we're capable of building something, right? And the other reason is we feel like the effort that we put in is so worth it that it is worth all the money that we paid for it, right? So ideally you're paying more, and then also you're putting your time into it, right? Now, further, when you're building something, like I said, you're putting your effort, it is your sweat, you're putting your time. You feel like there's a piece of yourself, you see that in the product. So that when someone comes in, you will end up telling them that, hey, this was something that I built last month. Do you like it? Right? You won't say that it's from IKEA. You will say that I built it, and then they'll ask you, how did you build it? Where did you get the items? And you'll say it's from IKEA, right? So that's something that you need to understand. That's like the psychological component on why we think that way, right? Now, do you want to avoid it? It's a question of more than avoiding it. It's just for you to be aware of it, right? So, for example, please do research before you buy it, right? If you want the experience, definitely go ahead. But if you can get something ready-made faster and cheaper, why not, right? So that is something that you have to think about, whether you have that thing. And then further, you need to always weigh in the time, because time is also money. So apart from the higher premium that you paid for the product, you also are spending time, which means you're paying more on top of it, right? And always get like second opinions on, are there other products available in the market, right? So that you don't just go ahead and buy one. So before you buy it, like, go ahead, have the experience, the immersive experience, but make sure that you're aware of these things and not jump into something without even knowing what it is, right? Now, So one thing you have to know is IKEA, even though they started off as an immersive experience company, they were more manual and like basically touch and feel kind of a immersive experience, right? Now from there, during COVID, they moved completely into online immersive experience, which is nothing but AR, VR or metaverse, right? These are all part of immersive experience. That's an entire market altogether, right? So I'm just going to quickly show you a video, and I'll also add the link of this video so you understand more of this. So in this video, if you see, they're basically telling you just take a picture of your living room. Now, instead of you going to a place and picturing whether this will fit in your room, rather select the product, place it on your living room and see if it actually makes sense, right? So this is something that they're calling it as an immersive experience through augmented reality, AR, right? So these are the different ways in which this whole immersive experience industry is evolving, right? Now, the entire industry, now that we jumped into the concept of the immersive technology market, it is so huge that in 2021, it was $21.6 billion worth. And they're saying that it's going to be like almost like 10 to like 5 times more or 5 to 7 times more in the next like 10 years. By 2030, it's going to be a $134 billion industry, right? And it's today actually it's growing at 22.32% growth rate, right? Every year it's becoming bigger and bigger, right? And this is not just the IKEA's part, the feel and touch kind of an immersive experience. It's also the augmented reality, virtual reality, the metaverses out there. So all of this field will become super popular and the market size is going to be massive. So if any of you feel like you have some interesting ideas where you want to bring this into play, then please do go ahead and start thinking about them. Add those ideas in the comment box so that we can also ideate with you so that you get more clarity on it. All right. So that's about it for today's topic on IKEA Effect and the economics behind it. If you have any questions and doubts, you're more than happy to come into that. Our experts and myself, I can more than happy to jump in and talk to you about it. And if you have more suggestions on topics like these, do let us know so that we can also do the research and then give you the best version of it on YouTube Live. Thank you.